Welcome to Dear Dev Diary. This is the first entry. I'm Cian Rice, and today I want to go into a deeper dive into how I got here. How I got here. How did I get here? All right, who am I? Why, in 2023, would I spend almost an entire year, if not over a year, making a game for a 30-plus-year-old piece of hardware? Well, the simple answer is that I can. The longer answer? The Game Boy has a special place in my heart. A translucent purple Game Boy Color was my first gaming system ever, and until Christmas 2001, my only way of playing games. I missed out on the SNES, the Genesis. I didn't get to own an N64 or a PlayStation. My first home console would be the original Xbox. I wanted a GameCube. I didn't even get Halo. But I cherished that Game Boy. And while the first game I got for it, Holy Magic Century, isn't a very good game, the second game I got is, to this day, my favorite game of all time. At some stage in this series, I'll dedicate a video to Link's Awakening DX and its importance to me. But for now, just know that I was absolutely enamored with it. I spent countless hours playing my Game Boy beyond Link's Awakening. I loved Pokemon Silver. I love the Zelda Oracle games. I mean, basically just more Link's Awakening. Why wouldn't I love it? I literally got grounded because a cousin of mine and I got in a little fight, and I wanted to play Pokemon Yellow, and I wasn't allowed to for a whole month. But more importantly, the Game Boy is very literally connected to me making games. I get a lot of people say that, oh, I played this game and it made me want to make games. But I promise you, this one is, at the very least, somewhat different. One summer, we decided to move houses. You may have heard about this in the prologue. We sold our house, but we actually had to wait a few months in between moving into our new house and leaving our old house. So we kind of bummed around family friends' houses. We went on a few vacations. We stayed in upstate New York at a friend's house. We stayed in the same town at another family friend's house. The funny part of this is we were moving half a mile down the street from our old house. But one day, after summer camp, an older kid who was actually in ninth grade and who was actually the son of the family that bought our old house was with his mom and walked by us while we were getting into our car to go wherever we were staying at the time. He saw me playing Link's Awakening, and he mentioned something called Zelda Classic to me, and I had no idea what it was, but he told me it was a free Zelda thing on the computer. So I went home, and on the family's computer at the home we were staying at, I downloaded it, and I was immediately enamored with the original Zelda, and I will have to do a video talking about that at some stage too. But what I learned is that Zelda Classic was this recreation of Zelda in DOS made by a team called Armageddon Games. I tooled around with it, and I opened the toolbar, and I saw this option called Z-Quest. I had no idea what it was, but I clicked it. Could it be another game? Who knows? What could it possibly be is what was going through my 9-year-old head at the time. And the answer? And let me make my own fucking Zelda games. I was immediately enamored with the ability to do this. I've always had a hyperactive imagination. I daydream a lot. I was that kid in school always doodling weird things in his notebooks alongside his actual notes for class. And I never even considered the idea of people making games or games as a career at the age of 9. I think I wanted to be a rock star astronaut, ruler of the world. But once I started messing around with Z-Quest and making my own Zelda games, I really wanted to do this. And that wasn't enough. I wanted to make JRPGs, so I found out about RPG Maker. I started downloading those. And I wanted to make 3D games. And so I started wanting to do that. And what kind of games did I want to get? Well, I wanted to make an MMO. I mean, how hard could it be? I started learning a programming language made for games. It was called Dark Basic. I never made that MMO. No, I never even tried. But I did pursue the career in game development. I went to WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and got a degree in game development. My senior thesis was a rhythm game called Hypergroup. We'll talk about that at some stage. I always kind of loved beat matching games, and that game has kind of become like an inside joke amongst friends. But it was like a really difficult to make game, and I made it almost entirely by myself. I worked with an artist externally, but I made a lot of the art myself, and I worked with a musician. And then I went on and had a career in this. I made my own game. Called Chroma Chord that we'll get back to. I worked on Rock Band. I worked on FIFA. I worked on a game that 5-year-old me would be insane about, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. And I got to work on the Street Fighter crossover for that, which was amazing. But none of this was really doing the creative work I wanted to do, actually designing and developing the games, right? It was all in a community management context, and so I wanted to do my own stuff. So before I joined Harmonix, which was my first job in the games industry, I was working on a rhythm game, like I just mentioned, called Chroma Chord. It didn't make sense to work on my own rhythm game while working for a company also making rhythm games, right? There's a whole kind of weird legal issue there. So we did halt development. But a few years later, less than a year later, honestly, we, in 2016, started working on a game called Clockbound EP. The team grew and it shrank and it grew and shrank again. And throughout, there were basically 3 people working on it. Myself, Max Szymanski, a musician, and Joe Wiley, an artist in England. But in 2019, after a bunch of international moves, a lot of health issues, a lot of personal life stuff, we finally released a demo, and we just kind of called it quits. I was super burned out. I didn't really have any desire to keep trying making these games, and that spark had left me, that desire had left me. But a few years later, in this post-COVID world, COVID is still a thing. But in 2022, I had that desire to start making games again, and I wanted to do something where the stakes didn't feel high, but I could still work on it for a prolonged period of time, and it wouldn't just be like some small, tiny game jam game in a weekend. I knew that it was possible to make Game Boy games because of Game Boy Studio, and I knew that because I had bought the Analog Pocket, that there was actually an easy way for me to test that on FPGA-based hardware and not just use a software emulator. So in a lot of ways, it was like fulfilling this childhood dream of making a game for my first console, and that really appealed to me. And so that's how we got here. That's how we got here. I started trying to remake the game Clockbound EP. That was basically the idea. What if we strip away all the excess of that game and make it a Game Boy game? And I started kind of with that idea and tinkering around, and then I kind of came up with my own original idea out of that called Pocket Mystery EP. The EP, I don't really know why I call these games EPs. I guess because they're supposed to be kind of short, like an EP versus an LP. Don't ask. But that's how we arrived at this game that would eventually come to be known as Pocket Mystery EP. That game, which is almost done. I'm literally polishing up the dialogue, just fixing some sound-related issues and other bugs, and the game will be done soon after I record this video. This is the first full episode of Dear Dev Diary, and stay tuned next time where we'll dive into Pocket Mystery EP. What is it? As always, like and subscribe. I'm actually going to turn off comments so you can't comment, but like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. We'll talk about Pocket Mystery EP. We'll talk about specific elements that have caused issues in its development. And we'll also, we'll talk about my sort of personal gaming canon. Games like Link's Awakening. Games like Holy Magic Century. Games like Rock Band. So stay tuned. We got more content on the way. Thank you again for watching. Bye.
All right, so with that, episode 1 is in the can. This was the second of 2 episodes to be recorded in my old apartment with my old setup in terms of just like the living space and everything. So while there won't be any changes to the recording equipment I'm using in the next couple of videos that come out, it will probably sound different just by virtue of being in a different space. Also, hopefully this postscript sounds a lot better than the last one. I figured out what was going on with the audio recording I was doing on my PC. So you can hopefully hear me better this part at least. The next 2 videos really get more into the actual development side. So these first videos, the prologue and this first episode, are kind of table setting, explaining what got us to where we're at. Obviously, this episode was called How Did We Get Here, right? Something like that. I've already forgotten. Jesus Christ. But the next episode will talk a lot about the actual game itself, what it is, and how I'm feeling about it. And the episode after that will talk more about a specific subject within the creation of the project. I'll leave that as a little breadcrumb for you to follow up on when you see the next video, where we'll explicitly call out what that is. But yeah, thank you again for watching episode 1, the first true episode, not a prologue episode. And I would say expect episode 3 in a similar 2 to 3 week time frame. I'm really excited for you guys to hear more about how I'm feeling about the game, better explain what it is, and hopefully see more footage. There was actually footage in this video of the game from a much older build, and I actually put it in last minute because I was kind of like, you know what? I don't want to keep people waiting too long to see the game I'm working on in motion now that I have like the setup to record it. So I recorded footage on my analog dock quickly before putting together this final edit. Recorded it with an Elgato hooked up to my MacBook, and then just loaded it into Blackmagic where it made sense. So, yep, as always, like, subscribe. Maybe one day I'll open up comments. But for now, just like and subscribe, share it with your friends, spread the word. Dear Dev Diary, we're here, and I appreciate everyone who's watched and made it this far into the video. So thank you again, and bye.